Uh, I'm Lisa Seitz-Gruwell. I am the Chief Advancement Officer and Deputy to the CEO at the Wikimedia Foundation. And I'm calling in today from the East Coast of the United States.
Great, thank you, Lisa. And now we also have Marshall on Marshall. Marshall, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm Marshall Miller. I am a Senior Director of Product at the Wikimedia Foundation. That means that I work on the strategy and the plans for many of the teams that build the user experience for Wikipedia. So thinking about reading and editing Wikipedia. And one of the people I work with is Madalena, who is at the conference with you all.
Madalena, would you like to quickly get up and wave to the crowd? All right, Junko, one more time.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, is it better?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, one more time. I'm Junko. I'm calling in from Tokyo today, and I'm in the movement communications team with Ratchet. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much for the introductions, and thank you all for being patient with some of the tech challenges. And we'll move quickly forward with the session. We're here to talk about the annual plan, and we'll also, of course, hear a bit more about what the annual plan is. Some of you may have engaged with the annual plan conversations in the past few years, where the foundation puts the annual plan out online on Meta, and it's open for community feedback, suggestions, and at the same time, and have such sessions and conversations either on which is virtual calls, or we do it in person like here with the board. Some of you may know about Talking 2024, which is an initiative which is still ongoing that some of you may have participated in. So the actual conversations around annual planning, figuring out what the annual plan should be, started with that. With Talking 2024, where some of you would have had conversations with senior leaders from the foundation, and if you haven't, it's still do because it's still open. It's on Meta. If you talk Talking 2024, you'll be able to kind of fill out a form and get a slot. So it is a lot about listening. It is a lot about absorbing and combining some of the different inputs that the foundation leadership would hear from different corners of the globe, from the different corners of the movement, and then putting it together in our plan, which is linked with our 2030 strategic direction. The purpose of an annual plan, like a lot of you may also have in your affiliates in your movement and within your own planning, is to guide some of the objectives, some of the workflows for the Wikimedia Foundation staff. This guides different groups of people as well, and this also lays out a basic outline for you all to input into and also factor into some of the planning that you are doing. Just to talk a little more about the annual plan and more about what the foundation is for this year and how you can work into that. I will move to a quick activity for those of you in the room, and if we could have this up.
Are you sharing the screen?
I am. Yeah. All right. So very quickly, you don't need some time. Very quickly, if you can open your phones and go to menti.com. We have like 10 seconds to do this. All right, come on. Phones out. Menti.com and add the code 79823088. And those online, please do the same. We'd love to get your inputs as well. We have some quick questions going on. Menti.com, and that's the code. Have you all logged in? A quick yay! All right. So I'm going to start the presentation. So very quickly, how are you feeling today? Let's add some words in. I see already some great words coming in. Awesome. Great, good, happy. Curious, which is great. Whoever's curious, we are going to tap into that curiosity. Sure. Some words that I don't know what they mean, but I definitely definitely want to find out by the end of the conversation, by the end of the sessions, what these words mean. Amazed. Very good. Buli Tahan. Now, probably mispronouncing it, so apologies for that. All right, great. We'll move to the next question. Do you know what an annual plan is? And for our presenters online, some of the responses may guide some of the things that we mentioned. So we get a lot of yeses, we have some no's and some maybes, great mixed bag, but a majority of people in the room know what an annual plan is, which is great, and what an annual plan aims to achieve. So we have, we're going to give it another 10 seconds for some more responses to come before we move to the next one. Shall we move to the next one? All right. Do you know that Wikimedia Foundation publishes an annual plan with community consultation? Or did you know that? So they may have given the answer. All right. That's a good one. That's very indicative. Thank you very much. It's fairly balanced in both, and that's good for us to know, good for us to keep this in mind as well. I'm moving to the next one in 5 seconds. Have you engaged in a foundational annual planning conversation before? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, now we're going to change that today, aren't we? Wow. See, now this is good. All right, perfect. And the yellow bit's going up. I think, are you all trying to match my jacket? Is that what's going on? Okay, moving to the next one. And I think this is the last one. Have you currently read the draft 2024-25 WMF Annual Plan? I think this might match the jacket too. Really? All right. Okay. I get that still reading too long. Just wanted to add that the annual plan is available in a summary, which is a much shorter version, which is available in nearly 30 languages, including a lot from the region. And while the annual plan, the larger annual plan is also available in multiple languages, so we do have a summary, which is the overview page, which is the kind of like the base page that you visit when you open the annual plan for this year. So if you have not, please do read that. Please do engage with it. And we'll of course know a bit more to Lisa about what the annual plan is. All right, now moving back, we will come back to our Mentimeter. There are a couple of the slides we talked to, but now moving to Lisa. Lisa, could you take us through the next few slides, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you all for having me. I wish I could be there in person, and I wish I could see all of your faces. Right now, I just see the stage, and it would be so great to actually be able to connect with you. But I know I'll get back to ECOP soon, I hope. But thank you for joining virtually. It is late here. It's 11 o'clock at night, so I've had lots of coffee, and I'm going to be drinking that as I speak. I'm going to talk first just a little bit about the process of the annual plan, and then I'm going to give you. Oh, good! I get to see everybody. There we go. Hello. It's so great to see you. Although you look very little. Okay, now I can see you better. That's great. Well, I hope you all are having just a wonderful conference. And again, I regret not being there in person. But to build this annual plan, we talked to a lot of people. We had over 130 conversations on Wiki with individuals and small groups. These conversations stretched across the globe in almost every time zone. We talked both to kind of our long-term editors that have been around for 20 years and people that joined us this year. We talk to technical contributors, we talk to stewards, we talk to event organizers and affiliate leaders. And from those conversations, we started drafting our annual plan. So next slide. This year's annual plan comes at a time of growing uncertainty. Now, I know I don't know if the topic has come up, but it seems to come up in every conference I go to. Just a recognition that AI in particular is really changing the landscape. We have globally, I think the role of trusted information online is increasingly important, and it's also more under threat than ever before. Organizations and online platforms must navigate a changing internet that's more polarized and fragmented. New ways of searching for information, including chat-based search, are gaining traction. And AI, the ease of creating AI, machine-generated content, it's both, we see it both as an opportunity and a risk for Wikimedia's role as a human-led, tech-enabled knowledge system, as well as for Wikipedia's financial model. Next slide. So this annual plan that we wrote, together with all of you, is anchored in the 2030 strategic direction, and I heard that referenced in the last presentation. But our 2030 strategic direction is really about becoming the essential infrastructure for the ecosystem of free knowledge. And it is about knowledge equity. And it's more than just an inspirational statement. It's a mandate to continuously assess the sustainability of our projects and organizations in response to the shifting landscape around us. Next slide. So one of the big changes, right? This is an annual plan. Obviously, we do this every year. And this annual plan is, it's about an 80-page document on Wiki. It's tough to say pages, but when we write it on pages, it's about 80 pages. And it's not a detailed work plan. It's fairly high-level direction for the Wikimedia Foundation staff for what we want to achieve in the coming year. But we're realizing we need to look even further, even look beyond 2030. It's vital to our mission. It just requires us to keep information useful and available on the internet free of charge and in perpetuity. The shift from a link-based search architecture, which has served our projects and financial model well up to this point, to a chat-based search architecture is in its early days, but it's likely here to stay. And we believe this part is kind of a generational shift in how people create and consume information online. What emerges from us from these changes is a strategic paradox. Wikimedia projects are becoming more vital to the knowledge infrastructure of the internet while simultaneously becoming less visible. So for internet users, they might not know that the content that they're reading is coming from Wikipedia because it's being served to them through another form factor. If we're to ensure the success of the Wikimedia projects into the future, we need to adopt a multi-generational approach across 3 areas of planning and projections. So next slide. So as we did last year, when we start planning, we have these conversations with Wikimedians, and then we also look at the world and we ask ourselves this question: what does the world need from us now? And it really involves researching external trends that are impacting our work, including a large focus on intermediate, bite-sized information, the increasing presence of incentives, financial and otherwise, to attract contributors to some platforms that we're effectively competing against, social and regulatory threats, including platform regulations that can be weaponized against us and our contributors, as well as opportunities to positively advance the public interest and the effect of AI on the information ecosystem. Next slide. So similar to that last year, this plan remains focused on the central importance of technology, given the foundation's role as the platform provider for communities leading peer-to-peer knowledge production systems around the world. So Marshall's here, and he can field questions about the product and technology department. But I just want to say that the work they do is really remarkable, and this is really the most people at the Wikimedia Foundation work in this department in product and technology, and they're really the only nonprofit in the world that maintains a website of this size, that's global, that's in 300 languages, and that just receives the traffic that Wikipedia does. So the work they do is really remarkable. It's really behind the scenes. You don't see it, and I think we all take for granted just that the site is always up, that it functions. They've built this network of caching centers around the world. In Asia, we're opening a new one in Brazil, and that work. We don't talk about it that much because it's just kind of there, and it doesn't change that much from year to year. But that's really the bulk of the work that the Wikimedia Foundation does. And then there's also just kind of new improving on the user experience, both for readers and for editors. And again, I just can't underscore how much maintenance is involved in maintaining a global top 10 website. Like I say, it's something we take for granted, but it's something that we need to realize is kind of the core work of the Wikimedia Foundation, and celebrate just how great of a job that team has done and continues to do. All right, next slide. Now, just to talk about the goals of the foundation. So these goals are the same that we had last year. They remain constant, and kind of just the work under them is changing. So the goals are around advancing knowledge as a service, supporting knowledge equity, protecting our projects and people, and strengthening the performance and effectiveness of the foundation, just making sure we're a smooth running foundation. And these 4 goals are kind of a blueprint to improve the technology that makes Wikipedia possible, support and enable the global volunteers, protect our values, and do so in a way that's effective and efficient over the coming years. Next slide. So in terms of the finance and budget, the plan, like I say, it's an 80-page document. I don't expect you all to read it, but I'll give you just kind of the highlights here. But the plan does, for those who are interested, includes more details about the financial model and our budget. The budget reflects the ongoing trade-offs as we see a slowing growth rate of new revenue. To meet this reality, the foundation has slowed its growth significantly. We are in a state where we're pretty comfortable with the size of the foundation and are working on just becoming more efficient. At the same time, we're increasing revenue and funding to movement entities available for, through grant making to affiliates and other user groups. And that remains, we grew that last year, and we are growing it again this year while keeping the growth rate of the foundation relatively flat, just kind of keeping up with inflation. Next slide. And then the last big thing, you just kind of also talked about in the last session is, this is a year where we're, considering a movement charter. And our fiscal year starts July 1. And this is right when voting will be taking place on the movement charter. And it's a participatory resource, and there's lots in there. We're considering piloting a new product and tech culture. And the plan also includes improved affiliate strategy. So those are the things that are in the plan. Again, I don't expect that you've all read it, but it's there if you want to. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to just also hear from you what you think of the plan if you've read it or want to respond to anything that I've said. And we can just have a conversation. And Marshall is here too, who can kind of go in the weeds more on product and technology. And we're happy just to chat for the rest of the hour.
We wanted to basically keep this space. I'll just stop sharing for a bit so that we can see the people online. That's me. Thank you very much, Lisa, for that. And that was a quick intro into the foundation annual plan. As those who are on the conference chat could see, while Lisa was speaking, I did drop the link of the annual plan of the slides that we just saw, which have been translated into various languages, so you could access them and read them as well. Of course, the English ones are also there. We did want to make this an interactive space, as Lisa mentioned. You heard a couple of things. Some of it may have resonated. You may have some thoughts and feedback on that. So we want to open the floor. But before we do that, I will go back to the slides and request Junko to comment very quickly, because we did a similar an engagement with the Japanese community a while back, and Junko has some learnings she would like to present. We'll go through them, and then we'll come to you for a question and answer round. And this, of course, we have folks in the room as well. We have Victoria and Lorenzo as well in the audience who are the trustees. So we have some of the folks here who would be able to answer questions. And if there is a question you're not able to answer, we will definitely get back to that. So, Junko, I am going to share the slides and off you go.
Thank you, Rachit. Hi, everyone, once again. I'm Junko from the Movement Communications team, and I work with and support the Japanese community to help carry their voices to and from the movement. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So our team has been, as Rachit mentioned, our team has been trying to find various ways to bring the annual plan conversation closer to the individual contributors and their everyday work. And so for the Japanese community, a page was created on the Japanese Wikipedia where selected topics were asked in the forms of questions. And the 3 topics were shown here. The trustworthiness of the content, how to continue to attract users and viewers, and security and compliances. Next slide, please. And so first before I get to the responses, so just to explain how it went, the feedback options were either posting on the talk page or filling anonymous Lime survey. And so far, close to 25 users have responded through the survey. But because this is still an ongoing process, I will just briefly share some of the common trends seen so far. And so the first kind of rather strongly tied to this question of how to help grow trustworthy contents more quickly while still adhering to the quality standards agreed upon within the Japanese Wikipedia. Suggestions show like importance of improving the understanding of the 5 pillars, which makes Wikipedia, unique, but can also be difficult for the relatively newer and younger users to understand. And the other challenge is, how to improve the kind of self-governance part, including suggestions, review the rules and guidelines and consider how the Japanese Wikipedia can have more administrators, because there are not so many compared to the size at the moment. And the concerns over IP users were raised. Next slide, please. And next, strongly linked to the question of how to reach new users and readers, especially the younger generation, to ensure that Japanese Wikipedia can continue in a way that they, should in the future. And here the suggestions include more support at entry point in like casual and playful way. Just using like quiz training and maybe like having newcomer badge, so others can be mindful. I think this comes from the idea that in Japan, for car drivers, there's a new driver sticker that you need to put on your car that makes it very visible that you're still a beginner, and that kind of helps other drivers understand, oh, this driver's new, so just give some space and be more forgiving if they're not still not at their best. And also, so the other popular ideas of more events to reach, such as editathons, to reach out to more people, and maybe working especially with libraries and cultural institutions which may have highly potential users. Next slide, please. And lastly, strongly linked to the question of how to maintain the sustainability of the Japanese Wikipedia related to security and compliances. Here, the automation and AI solutions were suggested in order to kind of prevent or warn any inappropriate and malicious edits, or to protect users' personal information through something like two-step authentication system. Sorry, can't pronounce it. Concerns over IP users were also visible here. And lastly, it says Japanese Wikipedia not having any contact point, which may be interesting because actually a new user group became first one from Japan to be recognized by the AFCOM, I think late last year, and which is great. For the curious-minded, in-person participants, please join the Community Spotlight Japan, which is happening tomorrow afternoon. And there you can find a presenter from a member of this user group and two other wonderful Japanese Wikimedians. So please join. And just coming back finally to the presentation, this is the I'm finished with the presentation part, but we're always looking forward to find out how we can better understand what's important for individual contributors and their everyday work. So as a part of annual plan conversation, be great if you can also share any thoughts on how we can continue to improve on this. Thank you for listening, and back to you, Ratchet.
Nicely and diligently taking notes. So thank you very much both of you for that. But any questions from anyone on the annual planning? Feel free to raise your hand and I'll bring the mic to you. Yeah, all right. Is that mic? And before, if you could introduce yourself and if you could introduce yourself and then begin.
Yes. Hi, thank you, Srila. Thank you for having this conversation. I am Wikimedia. I just want to ask whether the foundation is aware about the presence of requests for comments in the English Wikipedia about which issued a non-binding resolution to the Wikimedia Foundation back in 2023, which came out with 3 resolutions. It's kind of to be counted whether it's definitely support, but there was a clear support for the resolutions in English Wikipedia that English Wikipedia community is concerned about the distribution of grants related to activity on English Wikipedia that will either not contribute to our goals of building an encyclopedia or actively hinder those goals. the English Wikipedia community is concerned that the Wikimedia Foundation has found itself engaged in mission debate that this has resulted in funds that donors provided in the belief that they will support Wikimedia projects being allocated to unaccredited external organizations despite urgent need for those funds to address economic efficiencies. And three, the English Wikimedia community is concerned that Wikimedia Foundation has neglected critical areas of the project and then continued neglect of these areas may endanger the project. I'm curious whether the foundation aware of this, or perhaps you already aware of this. If you are already aware, then what is your impression? What is your response? Or whether this has been also considered in composing the draft of the annual plan. I'm not so sure whether if any of the signatories in the resolution are present in this from this year or in this room. But if you look at the page, there was extensive discussions. This probably. Thank you.
Just wanted to check. Thanks for the question.
Rachid, would you be able to kind of re-summarize that briefly, because we couldn't hear very well.
Okay. So if I could if you could recap very quickly your question for them, it's not the mic there.
No, I just want to know whether you have any impressions about the RFC, or if you already know about it, if you have any response, or if those even considered the draft, or if it affected any of the foundation's work. So it's one of the user application.
And if I could just sum up this is the RFC regarding the distribution of funds.
The resolution is kind of it's not really specific on which kind of fund, but it do address some part on, I think, how the foundation is appropriating their fund, including else, including the KF and the general grants.
All right.
Can I ask, is this an RF? Is it a new RFC that's come up recently, or is it? There was one I know. We're trying to figure. Are you referring to the one from, I think, October of 2023?
Yeah, October 2023. I see that it has been mainly most of the edits are coming from apparently October 2023.
Okay. We really had an echo there, so we couldn't make out. Ratchet, were you able to hear? Is that the RFC from 2023?
I think the RFC we're talking about is the one from October 2023, which was basically one of on support for internal needs, and I think there has been a response given. But if you would like to add some more on that.
Sure, I'm happy to talk about that. So there were a lot of issues raised in the RFC in 2023. And it was a wide range of issues. Most of those issues, both the Board of Trustees and the Wikimedia Foundation engaged in that conversation and answered most of the questions, and also kind of explained what we were planning to do. It's been a while since I've looked at that RFC. Because it was about 18 months ago, but we've made progress on, most of the feedback there. We took it very seriously. We agreed with a lot of the feedback, a lot of the, improvements, and many of those improvements were actually even reflected in the annual plan. One of the learnings, as I'm recalling, is, just involving, having more transparency in budgeting and involving more people in the annual planning process, which we did. And that's, like this year we had 130 conversations with with community members about this annual plan, and we're going around the world talking about it and giving folks the
It looks like we lost Lisa. She'll probably rejoin, but I also wanted to add something from the product and technology perspective. If it sounds like you were also mentioning some of the more recent RFCs on English Wikipedia, and I remember that one of those was about support for internal needs or support for moderators, patrollers, experienced editors that are working on Wikipedia. And when it comes to the product and tech department annual plan, we've been very deliberate about making sure that we are providing that sort of support to these most experienced editors, because we know that the most experienced editors are people who do a lot of the powerful work on the wikis, creating a lot of the content and keeping the wikis safe. So there's a couple things that I want to point out. A really big one is the way that the community wish list is evolving. So for those of you who don't know, the community wish list is this multi-year project that has solicited input, concerns, bugs, ideas from community members that then get voted on and prioritized. We have heard feedback, and we agree that that is not an efficient way to figure out what all of our communities need and prioritize it, because it doesn't hear all of everyone's voice equally, and it doesn't represent every different community. And also, it doesn't necessarily figure out which projects are the best ones to spend our resources on. So evolving the wish list into this continuous intake pipeline is something that all of you can read about, and is a way that we want to make sure that it's more than just one team working on wishes, that it's many teams across the foundation that each have different expertise that can work on different wishes so that we can get more community needs serviced. So that's one example of one of the ways that something that came up in these RFCs is also resonant with what we've put in our annual plan. Lisa, when you dropped off, I started talking about
Excellent.
support
Thank you.
for
All right.
experienced editors, which was also mentioned in some of these RFCs.
The whole hotel I'm at does not have the most reliable Wi-Fi, I'm finding.
Issues. I hope that answers the question. I also wanted to just add in addition to what Marshall mentioned, that the new wish list will allow me to submit their inclusive definitions in different languages. I think I remember correctly on 16th of July. So please do take note of that to engage with that. Additionally, and once it goes into the different aspects of the annual plan, and if there are any other inputs or any other suggestions you would like to give, there is a discussion page which is alive, which is thriving, and we do encourage you to go there and find the inputs. All right. Any other questions from the room? Yes. Do you want mic? Do we have one? Can you pass the mic to Venus, please? With a quick introduction at the beginning.
Hi, I'm Venus. Thank you, Lisa, for the explanation about the fall planning. I have a very quick question here. So when I read the whole planning, I found out that there are 4 goals that the foundation would like to achieve, like in the next year. And for our region to achieve all like these 4 goals, we will need more than just the fundings like that listed in the plan, right? So, for example, we need human resources, we need like all the other types of resources, right? So I would like to ask, my question here would be like, what kind of resources that the foundation can provide to our region to help us achieve like these 4 goals in the annual plan?
Yeah. Can I ask you what resources you're needing?
So the very first kind of resources that popped up in my mind would be like human resources. So for example, we might need we do have a lot of projects that we want to do like in next year to help build the infrastructure for the movement. And which means like for doing this type of projects, we might need a lot of like project coordinators who are familiar with our culture, who can help us like run the projects like smoothly. So for example, in this case, is the foundation willing to invest in this type of like roles that we need for achieving this type of goals?
So there's a couple ways that I think the investment from the Wikimedia Foundation comes, to ECOP. One is through grants. There's a grant making budget for the region that is, as you know, there's a regional grant making committee made up of people from ECOP who decide, which of those grants are funded and at what levels. And that can be for exactly the things that you described. Jacqueline Chen is a staff member who is a good resource to interface with that process. We also have, partnership support and, community communication support in the region. So those are the resources that, the primary resources that the foundation provides with staff in ECOP. And then we have a centralized team, that can provide some programmatic support for helping with best practices and that kind of thing on editathons and other types of activities that you might want to do with your user group or your affiliate. Does that answer the question?
That was a yes.
Okay, great.
Right. I know we have about 10 minutes left, so I just wanted to go to Junko and see if we have any questions from our online participants. And those who are online, please, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand or type a question in the chat. And Junko is our wrangler and she's got it. So Junko, do you have any questions from the online participants?
Yes, I have a few. And the first one is, what specific parts of the annual plan are relevant to the ECOP communities? How can we engage in the annual plan better?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. I mean, when I think about it, I think almost the entire plan is relevant for ECOP. There's a lot of our plan, like I said, is really keeping the site running, right? That's the biggest part of the budget, which is critical, right, for all of us, not just ECOP, but for the whole world. And a few years ago, we put a caching center in Singapore to try to serve, to make sure that ECOP and Asia are served better. And that has really improved how quickly information, loads on devices for the region. That was a big technical improvement that was rolled out a couple of years ago, and that continues. The product and technology team is also working on, a number of new tools for editors that are going to be, rolled out globally, but are going to, really help, I think, editors in ECOP. And then, of course, our support for communities. And I described that earlier as both grants to affiliates as well as, some support in the region, as well as a centralized team that's more focused on programmatic areas. And then, our legal team provides support, when legal issues arise around the world, and our trust and safety team also addresses any trust and safety issues that come up, and they happen everywhere. So those are the main ways I would say that the annual plan is relevant. Marshall, do you have any specific tidbits that you want to add from product and tech?
Yeah, I can give a couple of highlights that I think would be relevant for the region, especially hearing what Junko was saying from the conversation with the Japanese community and some of the needs there. When we're thinking about serving our volunteers in this coming year, there's kind of three main points that we are thinking about. The first one is how to serve experienced people that have been in our community for a long time The second is how to serve new people. That's the next generation that are joining. And then the third is how to connect all of those people together. Because as all of you clearly know from coming to a conference, like a lot of Wikimedians do some of their best work and have some of their best experiences when they do it together. So 3 highlights from that. When it comes to experienced people, I already mentioned the wish list. A lot of the wish list related work is going to address various things that experienced people need. We hear about improvements to abuse filter. We hear about improvements to watch list. We hear about being able to do patrolling work from mobile devices. Those are examples of many of the different things that will come up in that track of work. When it comes to new people, we're making a serious investment in what we call edit checks and suggested edits. So if any of you have ever registered an account lately or been working on the Android or iOS apps, you may have encountered these new workflows that make it easy to do things like add links to articles or add images to articles or fix typos. They are a kind of workflow that makes a lot of sense to a younger generation that is only using the internet from their mobile devices and are having trouble learning to edit in a lot of the ways that we learned to edit 5 years ago or 10 years ago by using desktop computers. In that same body of work is things to make sure that newcomers' edits comply more easily with policies. So for instance, we hear from a lot of communities that it is a problem when people add unverifiable or unsourced information to Wikipedia without any citations. We're building workflows that automatically detect when that's happening to warn the newcomer that the edit that they're submitting may end up being reverted, that they should add a reference if they want it to survive. And those are already being shown to make a difference. And so we're going to be building more of those. And then the third thing that I want to highlight about connections between people is some of you who run campaigns and events, you may have heard about the work of the campaigns team to build event registration tools that allow event organizers to create an event with a date and a time and help people sign up for them on Wiki and get information about them. That's already been built and is still being developed. In the coming year, we're going to be thinking about how to do some of those same things for Wiki projects. So people that organize just online and have a project around something they're interested in, how can they recruit people to join their Wiki project and find out about what's going on with it? So those are 3 highlights that I think are going to make a big difference to volunteer communities around the world and that I think sound like they'd be relevant for your communities, given what I've heard so far. Interested if anyone in the room wants to raise their hand and say if those things sound like they're on track or off track, or anything that we need to know about your communities.
Thank you for that, Marshall. Some exciting updates. We have just a few more minutes left. I just want to quickly check any questions or any inputs from the room. Otherwise, I think you mentioned there was a question that we just go online.
Hi, sir. I'm just trying to make sure there's no hands up in the Zoom. Is that correct here? Okay. So there's another question from which is artificial intelligence is a major concern, not only for the foundation and the movement as a whole, but also for all companies and institutions, and development is very rapid. I know the organization is working and experimenting with ways to adapt AI to support the mission and not to be an obstacle to achieving. How are the plans of the foundation towards achieving such a huge need?
Yeah, I'll kick that off, and then Marshall can also give some thoughts here. Our overall, thinking on AI is, it's an incredibly powerful tool, and it can be used for good and it can be used for bad. We think that AI, when it is, they can make certain tasks just a lot more efficient. And the AI tools that we've been developing are really focused towards that end. They're, always keep the human in the loop. So, we're not publishing information that isn't verified by people, but it can make the editing process more efficient for people. So at the end of the day, there's always human verification on the information. That really is the key. Some of the AI tools that we've built have been and machine learning tools that we have built have been around detecting vandalism on Wikipedia and other things like that alert our editors, alert people to problems. So there's an efficient way, and I think an ethical and good way to use AI. I think there's also some really big concerns. Kind of the large language models like ChatGPT that are, out there today. Some of the values that we really hold true in Wikipedia around verifiability. You don't get that in a large language model currently. So you don't know where the information is coming from, right? You don't know the source. And that I think decreases the quality of the information if it can't be verified. You don't know what in the response is true, what is false, what comes from a reputable source, what doesn't. And that's something that's really lost, I think, with at least the current versions of large language models that you get when you visit Wikipedia. So we're also doubling down on our values, doubling down on just educating people about how important the 5 pillars are, and that I think one of the things about AI and large language models is they seem to be geared towards delivering information faster, when really that's not the main problem in the world, right? I think most people feel they can get information fairly fast, but they are concerned about is the information accurate? And right now, large language models really aren't providing answers that are more accurate. There's in many ways, less accurate. They're not good at saying I don't know, and they will hallucinate answers. And so we have a really good value proposition because that is our focus. Our focus is on delivering information that's well sourced, and that is verifiable and written from a neutral point of view. So, reinforcing that with people, I think, is really, really important. Marshall, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, thanks. When I think about this big question of how we address AI as a movement, it breaks down into 2 categories for me. One is, what does AI mean for us internally? As we build the wikis, as we conduct our affairs as volunteers, how do we use AI, or how could AI impact us, right? So that's where we think about the tools that could be improved for volunteers using AI. And it's also where we think about threats to our content that could come from AI. So people are always trying to attack our sites, vandalize our content, and they're trying to do it at bigger and bigger scale. And AI may be a tool that they can use to do it at very high scale. And that's something we need to think about and invest in how to protect against. So that's the internal side. And then the external side is so many different AI platforms feed off of Wikipedia content and are built, based on everything they read on the internet. And a lot of that is Wikipedia. And so we have to think from a partnerships perspective and a strategic perspective, how are we going to interact with the rest of the AI world? Because Wikipedia content is an important source for it. So I know we're running out of time. Those are 2 of the big categories that I'm thinking of. And just to give a couple of breadcrumbs that you all might want to follow, when I was mentioning that edit check project before about how to help newcomers make productive edits, I mentioned the example of making sure they add a reference. Imagine the ability of using an AI model to warn a newcomer that the content they wrote doesn't look neutral, right? A model might be able to suggest that. But the important thing, like Lisa said, is, at the end of the day, Wikipedia really needs to be built by humans. And perhaps AI can help us do that. But I think that's what the world's counting on us for, is when something's built by a group of humans all over the world, that's how people know they can trust it. So, I think those are some of the things we need to think about.
As a moderator, whenever you begin a session, you're like, oh my God, 60 minutes, how do we cover it? Look at us, our time is up. I just wanted to check very quickly, Lisa, Marshall, if you have any closing comments very quickly for the otherwise, we will kind of just go back to the 2 centimeters pending.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for having us. Thank you for taking the time to learn about the annual plan and to ask such great questions. We really appreciate them and hope you'll continue to offer us your feedback and ask questions. This process of building the encyclopedia together and keeping this website relevant and functional is really one that we do with you, and just really appreciate the conversation and hope that it continues.
Yeah, thank you. Please stay in touch. Ask somebody if you want to be in touch with either of us, or I mentioned Madalena is there. She also knows about product stuff if you want to talk to her at any point in the conference.
Great, thank you much. Great, thank you much. Thank you very much, Lisa, Marshall, and thank you so much, Junko and Madalena, for all your support. I am going to move quickly to the pending. So let's open the mentee again, everyone, very, very quickly. This is, for those who don't have it, it's mentee.com and the code is 79H23088. I should share the screen again. I keep missing. Do that. And I know I'm standing between you and lunch, I think, so I'm going to get out of here very, very soon. So that's the link. If you can all open the link on mentee.com. We just have two very quick questions that we're going to go through. And this is the question: do you feel the WMF annual plan is relevant to your work in the movement? From what you've heard, from what you've learned, from what you've hopefully read, do you feel that the annual plan is relevant to your work in the movement? Keep it on for 10 more seconds. Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Moving to the next one. Do you feel better informed on the WMF annual planning process? We'll do it very quickly. We'll give another 10 seconds before I hand it over to the host for the next sessions. And for those of you who would like to know more, and for those of you who feel that you don't know enough, please do get in touch with me. We have Lorenzo, we have Victoria, who are going to be here for the next 2 days. You can engage with them right here, catch any one of us during coffee, during lunch, read it up online, engage with it on Meta. The conversations can happen on various platforms. So with that, thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate your time, your focus, and your attention. Do engage with the annual planning session. To all our online attendees, presenters, question wranglers, and note takers, thank you very much, and have a good night, good evening, or good morning. Thank you.
All right, it's time for lunch, and the sessions will be resuming at the 2 p.m. And also, there was like a reminder chat that for Friday Cripers, please assemble lobby in the 12:10 p.m. And other than that, there's a